Boatworks today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexial Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much. All right, now before I put my head down and dive into this thing, I want to kind of take a minute and, as much for myself as it is to try and explain what's going on, just think out loud and kind of work through the process here. A lot of times that helps me. I talk to myself probably more than I should, but it works and it's never let me down yet. Hopefully today's not that first. So the goal here is I'm looking to make essentially a form or a kind of a makeshift mold that I can use for casting what's going to be the cover that's going to fit over this entire area. Now, a couple of things that I need to kind of keep in mind with the plan here is that the finished lid, so the part that I end up pulling off of this form, it needs to extend over each of these raised lips all the way around, but not by much. I don't want to make this any larger than what I need to. So that's the reasoning for these spacers here. So what I think is going to end up working out, I'm going to have these spacers in, kind of spaced all the way around all four sides. Then I'll be able to come in with, I don't know, probably some 1x or some sheet goods or something that's going to be fairly rigid, fairly stiff. And I'm essentially going to make a new frame all the way around on the outside of these spacers. So what that's going to do is each of these spacers is a 1/2 inch thick. So between this side, the port side, and the starboard side, that's going to oversize the lid by a total of, roughly 1 inch. Now that's going to end up being the outside diameter. Once I actually cast the part off of here, I'm intending to have about a 1/4 inch thickness of the lip of the lid coming down. So a 1/4 inch is going to get eaten up by the 1/2 inch of this thickness of the spacer. So long way of saying that when it's all said and done, if this all works, once the lid is set down in place, I'm going to end up having roughly about a 1/4 inch of play side to side and fore and aft. And I think that's reasonable. I don't want to make it too tight, because then if I'm off by a little bit, if something shifts while I'm casting this part, I want to have a little bit of wiggle room. And probably the one aspect of this lid that's most important of everything is that because this is a wide span, so from here over to the port side, this is almost 5 feet wide, and this is roughly 3 feet deep. This is a big lid, and if I can get away without having this entire thing free span, I don't think I'm going to be able to. But if I can get away with this whole thing being free spanned without having to have a support in the middle, that would be fantastic. It gives me more options as far as access lids or hatches within this overall cover. But if I need to have a support in there, not the end of the world. So now, whether or not this is actually going to work or not, I guess we'll find out here in a minute. I can see it in my head, and a lot of times if I can see it in my head, it usually works out, but not always. But anyways, I've got a lot of kind of fiddly work here to do, some cutting, fitting, shaping, that kind of thing. So there isn't going to be a whole lot going on. That's why I wanted to give a little bit of an explanation now. So with all that said, I think I've got everything prepped. Let's just jump into this. So all along the bottom here.
Beautiful.
All right, so real quick, before I take this frame up and start cutting it down to, I guess, the finished height that I need for this frame, I just realized that I never really quite explained how I came up with what that height needed to be. So here we go. All right, now when I'm looking at this here, 3 of these 4 sides, they're dead flat. So the height-wise, they're kind of all on the same parallel, I guess, something like that. The only one that's odd is this aft one because it's arched, right? So what I did is, at least initially, I actually snapped a string line. So you can see I drilled a hole right here, wrapped a string around it, and stretched it across all the way over to the other side. Now, what that gave me was how much clearance I'm going to have right here in the middle or in the peak. Now, in the center here, this is going to be the highest point because of it's arched, right? So that's going to be the highest point. So after I basically snapped that string across, that still left me roughly a 1/4 inch of clearance across that center section right there. So by default, if I have clearance here at that height, then I'm going to have clearance all the way around these other 3 sides. Because at the end of the day, I want to have the height of the top of this lid, I guess, as low profile as possible. Now there's a comment that I want to make here and kind of address some comments that have been made in prior videos here, but I'll get to that here in a second. Now, as far as the thickness of the fiberglass skin, I'm estimating I'm going to have roughly a 1/4 inch thickness all the way around. So that's going to be the top skin as well as the sides as they come down and mate down on top of the deck. Now, I am going to have some coring material on the underside. But the coring material is not going to extend to where these raised pieces are, or around the perimeter. It's going to be inset, maybe a 1/2 inch up to 1 inch, give or take, just to add some thickness. Now, the reason for doing that, obviously, think of when you're talking about like sandwiched coring or sandwiched material, think of it along the lines of like an I-beam, right? Now, if you have an I-beam, a steel I-beam, and it's only, that high, that's not going to be anywhere near as stiff as if that same I-beam were, say, 12 inches tall. Same gauge steel, same thickness, same everything. Even if it were lighter, the taller you get between the top skin and the bottom skin, referring to the composites here, the stiffer that laminate is going to be. So on the bottom side of here, I'm anticipating I'm going to have a 1/2 inch CUSA coring. I don't think I need to go down to or go up to a 1 inch CUSA. I have it on hand, but I think that'd be a little bit overkill. Now, in the past few weeks, there have been several comments along the lines of that I need to have this lid recessed so that it's flush with the deck, and then I can run drainage underneath that lid and have it just go straight overboard. There is one problem with that, and granted, I have not floated this boat yet, but every bit of information that I've come across on that topic, the water line for these B25s is pretty much right at deck height. So these scuppers, these aft scuppers in the back here, My understanding is that they float roughly about a half an inch to an inch above the actual water line. All right. So the only way that I could potentially have some built-in kind of drainage in underneath all of these hatches here is if I were to raise this deck height, and I would end up having to raise that up 3 or 4 inches at least. And at this stage of the project, that's just not going to happen. And with the deck height the way that it's set now, if I do any type of elbows, any type of plumbing whatsoever, they're going to be below the water line. There is no way for them to exit out above the water line. It's not possible. And I've had several people say, well, the kind of the design for this boat, originally was that it was supposed to have a wet bilge. I think that's kind of a crappy little feature if you ask me, but it is what it is. And these boats have been around for 50 plus years. They've got a cult following. They're still going very strong. So obviously it may not make sense initially, but there is something to it. Whatever that something may happen to be, I'm not quite sure, but it is what it is. So that is the reason I am not able to get any type of built-in drainage on this particular boat, at least without doing some major modifications. And at that point, you got to ask yourself, well, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth taking 10 steps back to raise this deck up? And this is even before I took ownership of the boat. A lot of work has been done. Granted, I had to undo a lot of it, but a lot of it had already been done that I didn't have to touch. And is the juice worth the squeeze to take all those steps backwards to raise this up 3, 4, 5 inches for the sake of getting some built-in drainage? In my opinion, no, not for this project. Maybe, your mileage might be different, but for me in this project, that's the reason I'm not able to do any of these flush deck covers or, drainage directly overboard. I wish I could. Well, technically I can, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to go down that road. It's just one of those situations where it is what it is. It's going to be fine. These boats have been around for 50 plus years. They're doing just fine. It'll work out in the end, no problem. All right, now before I screw a top or a skin across this entire framework here. Doing that's going to lock everything in place. But before I do that, I want to make sure that the template that I made is going to match this radius here and still leave me enough room for getting my glass laid up and not making it too small. All right, so and I'm just going to eyeball this. This looks like, all right, so this is the inside edge, or I guess what will be the outside edge of the radius. And I've got about a 1/4 inch gap all the way around. Now I will still have a little bit of wiggle room to shift everything forward a little bit if I have to, but I think this is going to give me a nice fit. It's not going to be too tight, and I don't think it's going to be, well, I don't see any possible way it could be too sloppy, but I think this template is going to be the size radius to run with. All right, now before I can screw a lid on here, I've got to do one of two things. Now my spacers are sitting proud of this frame, and I don't want to knock these spacers out because, well, then these frames, they could, I don't know, they could shift out of position. So instead what I'm going to do is put a little spacer down underneath each of these. Now it doesn't raise it up so that it's too proud, but it is definitely proud enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and shim up every single corner around this framework and then cut a piece of, really it could be anything, because it's, the top on here isn't going to be part of the actual piece. I just need some type of a top, well actually bottom by the time I flip everything upside down. This is kind of the part where things can get a little bit confusing as far as being able to keep orientation of how everything's going to be coming together, but I think it's going to work out just fine. But let me shift this out. I'm probably going to use some OSB just because I've got plenty of it. I don't want to waste good material on something that it doesn't need to be all that good. It just needs to be flat and stable. So let me get this shimmed up, get the top cut, and get that screwed down. Now I do want to have the factory edge across the back. For whatever reason, that back part of the frame, I don't know if there was some stress in the board when I cut it down to the actual height or what exactly is going on, but it's not really cooperating as nicely as I would like. So anywho, all right, I'm gonna leave that back edge. I'm not going to screw that back edge, but I am gonna get this side, and this side secured. And then when I get this flipped up and back on the bench, then I'll do whatever I gotta do to that back before I actually secure it. it's only been a couple of hours, but let's see how things are shaping up here. It is a little late Saturday late afternoon. It's like 7 o'clock, 7:30. And a little on the cool side for a fast cure, but I'm not gonna be surprised one bit if this stuff is not set up. I think I've got a mixture of slow and fast hardener that I used, and yeah. So, I mean, it's not sticky anymore, but I mean, it's definitely not cured up enough to the point where I feel comfortable being able to pop it off this form without it completely losing its shape. And then, my luck, it'll cure into a pretzel overnight. So it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to get the happy ending at the end of this video, but let me at least explain kind of how this was, or how this is going to all come together here. All right, so now when we're looking at this form, the height of this lip is, let's just call this an inch, 25 millimeters, give or take. So not a whole lot. Now the width of this is 3 inches, well, at least on the 2x4 here. This is from here to here, this is 3 inches. So what I was gonna do after this is cured, I'm gonna pop this off of the form, and then I'm gonna cut a little strip. So I need two rounded corners here, so I'm gonna cut 2 strips. I've got extra there just in case I screw one of the cuts up. And then this is going to fit, let's see now. I'm gonna screw this one up, I'll bet you. Try and do this one-handed. All right, but then anywho's, each of those strips then is going to lay kind of right in the corner like so. On both, these are the 2 aft corners, so over there, as well as this corner here. Now I'll be bonding those in with some thickened epoxy, and then once that's in place, then I can come in and start getting this actual form ready to actually get some layup on it. So I gotta create my fillets, get a glass skin inside of here, PVA that, and then I can start actually laying up the glass for the part that's gonna get pulled off of here and set up in its new home up on the Bertram. But with it being as late as it is on Saturday night, and this video is going live on Patreon here within probably the next hour or so, and then going up on YouTube on Sunday morning, this is going to be the kind of the closer for the video for this week. So on that note, I think I'm just gonna button this one up. So as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you in advance. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave those down below. I will do my best to follow up with you. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. And I'll see you next week.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.